Clint Walker, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint. I'm Randy Hansen. In World News headlines today, military arrest case in Bradley Manning hearing. And U.S. commander in Afghanistan suggests extended occupation beyond 2014. And top U.S. general returns from Iraq. And Syrian opposition demands action as toll mounts. An Egyptian woman protests military attacks. And Jong-un to run North Korea with uncle. And House Republicans reject Senate tax cut deal. An ex-soldier sentenced to 32 years in MLK parade bombing attempt. And Boston resident convicted of aiding al-Qaeda for online postings. And U.S. nuclear safety chief visits Fukushima plant. UN Security Council members criticize U.S. on Israeli settlements. And Lori Berenson returns to U.S. from Peru. GVTV News content has no connection with NCTV Digital Media Center and is its own program. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, military prosecutors have finished laying out their case against alleged Army whistleblower Private Bradley Manning in a pre-trial military hearing to determine whether he is to face a court-martial for leaking classified videos and diplomatic cables to WikiLeaks. First defense witnesses are expected to testify yesterday on Tuesday. The man who turned Manning in to the U.S. authorities, Andrino Lamo, denied that he had violated journalistic confidentiality when he handed over chat logs that led to Manning's arrest. And the top U.S. commander in Afghanistan has given new indications the U.S. plans to keep its troops in Afghanistan beyond 2014 timetable of withdrawal, in what the New York Times calls the most emphatic signal to date. U.S. designs and remain. General John Allen said talks on a strategic agreement with the Afghan government would almost certainly include a discussion with Afghanistan on what post-2014 force will look like. General Allen said. The last U.S. military commander in Iraq has returned to the United States as part of the last wave of outgoing U.S. troops. General Lloyd Austin paid tribute to U.S. soldiers who fought in Iraq at a ceremony outside Washington, D.C. He said, "There's one thing that particularly impresses me about our force. That is the significant number of those who served in Iraq answered the call to arms after the life-altering events of 9/11, knowing that they might go into harm's way. Even more impressive is that after multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, many of them have re-enlisted to continue serving our nation. Now there are things that make them the next greatest generation." And Syrian opposition groups are urging international action to prevent what it calls a series of massacres by Syrian forces against civilians and military defectors. Most of the violence was reportedly focused on the province of Idlib, where scores of people have been killed in the last 2 days. One witness reported seeing civilian corpses burnt and beheaded with their hands tied behind their backs. Estimates of the death toll range from 150 to 270. And in Egypt, thousands of women marched on Cairo's Tahrir Square on Tuesday to protest the ongoing attacks on female protesters. The rally was sparked by recent video footage showing soldiers dragging a woman through the street by her hair with traditional clothing ripped from her body and her underwear exposed. One of the protesters said the reason for the protest is a picture in the video that was published by news services around the world, and it showed us to what extent the military council has no qualms about trampling on women of Egypt and the girls of Egypt and to beat them and strip them. They have no problem doing that so long as they get to stay in power and cover up their crimes and the regime stays in place, protecting Mubarak and previous regime, which has still not fallen. Earlier in the day, Egyptian forces had fired on protesting demonstrators against military rule in the fifth class of clashes that have killed 14 and left hundreds injured. In North Korea, state media is claiming some 5 million people have turned out to mourn the death of leader Kim Jong-il. The figure amounts to more than 1/5 of North Korea's population. Kim Jong-il's son and presumed successor, Kim Jong-un, has led the funeral proceedings for his father. Reuters reported that the source in close ties to Pyongyang and Beijing said that Jong-un and his uncle and some top officials will help run the country. Latest spending showdown between President Obama and congressional Republicans continues after House Representatives Republicans rejected a bipartisan Senate measure that would extend a payroll tax cut for 2 months, benefiting 160 million American workers. Lawmakers have until the next month to extend the tax break, after which the payroll taxes will jump 2%, costing the average U.S. family $1,000 per year. On Tuesday, President Obama criticized the Republicans for opposing the Senate's measure and said, "I saw today that one of the House Republicans referred to what they are doing as, quote, high-stakes poker. He's right about the stakes, but this is not poker. This is not a game. They shouldn't be politics as usual. Right now the recovery is fragile, but it's moving in the right direction. Our failure to do this could have effects not just on families, but on the economy as a whole." Former U.S. soldier has been sentenced to 32 years in prison after pleading guilty to failed bombing of Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade March in Spokane, Washington earlier this year. Kevin Williams Hartfam admitted hiding a bomb coated in rat poisoning in a backpack along the parade's route. Investigators say it was equipped with a remote-controlled detonator and positioned to direct its blast towards the marchers. Southern Poverty Law Center, nonprofit track hate groups, has identified Hartfam as a one-time member of the white supremacist group National Alliance. He tried to withdraw his guilty plea just before the sentencing, but was denied. And a U.S. citizen and Boston area resident has been convicted of conspiring to support al-Qaeda and other terrorism charges after a controversial trial. Tarek Mahana was accused of trying to serve in al-Qaeda's media wing. He was 27 years old when he was arrested in October 2009 and had been held in solitary confinement. Mahana was originally courted by the FBI as becoming an informant. His lawyers argued that Mahana was acting well within his First Amendment rights and posting jihadist content online, was expressing his own political views, not conspiring with al-Qaeda. But the jury found Mahana guilty on all charges. Defense says it will appeal in a statement. The American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts criticized the verdict, saying it undermines free speech. The top U.S. nuclear safety official is backing Japan's claim to have stabilized the earthquake-stricken Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power facility and brought the crisis under control. Speaking after a visit to the plant, Gregory Jaczko, the chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, rejected suspicions raised by the experts that the plant is not ready for the next stage of cleanup. Jaczko also said he had learned from seeing the plant firsthand. He said, "A humbling experience for me to go to Fukushima Daiichi and see the damage of the reactors and see the damages of the facility. But it was also a very inspiring visit because I really got to see and experience firsthand the kind of conditions and efforts that were made. Many of the workers immediately after the accident, seeing both sites, I think, left me with very different impressions, but both of them really, I think, recognition of positives and things that can go learn forward and reduce the likelihood of an event like this in the future." And members of the UN Security Council have issued rare public criticism directed at the United States over the Obama administration's refusal to allow resolutions criticizing Israelis as settlement building in the occupied territories. After a closed-door session on Tuesday, diplomats from the regional blocs represented the council expressed frustration with the Obama administration's stance. The Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, said the United States is alone in blocking action against illegal settlement building. He said, "It is very unfortunate that when you have this kind of support on the Security Council, that the Security Council cannot legislate that in a resolution in perimeters, in a resolution of condemnation of settlement activities and demand from Israel to stop this illegal behavior immediately in all of the occupied territories, including East Jerusalem." And the reason why the Security Council was unable to act on this very important issue simply because the position of one powerful country of the Security Council. The once imprisoned U.S. activist Lori Berenson arrived in the United States on Tuesday for the first time since 1995 when she was arrested in Peru. Berenson was allowed to leave Peru along with her 2-year-old son, Salvador, to spend the holidays with her parents in New York City. She was paroled last year after serving 15 years of a 20-year sentence for aiding the outlawed Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement. After she landed, Berenson declined to speak with reporters. Her mother, Rhoda Berenson, made a brief statement and said, "This is not a political time for us. This is time for family and friends. Everybody's excited about meeting Salvador, so he's going to be front and center." Salvador can mumble words in both languages. And that's it for World News Today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Monday, 8:55 a.m., a caller from Memorial Park reported an assault. And 10:47 a.m., a caller from 200 block of Lytton Drive reported attempted break-in with a hacksaw having been used on a door latch. And 11:52 a.m., a caller from Nevada City Highway reported transients drinking. And 6:08 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Spree Avenue reported a woman took her mother's car in prescription medications. 6:39 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West Bear Hill Drive reported vandalism to a truck. And 8:44 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Bennett Street reported a man threw something at a house. He was arrested on suspicion of battery and vandalism. And Tuesday, 6:21 a.m., a caller from Alta and Alta Vista Streets reported someone threw something and broke out a truck windshield. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Monday, 10:21 a.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Giboney Lane reported theft of a gas tank with 4 gallons of gas from a boat. And 10:41 a.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Juliana Way reported a theft. 12:44 p.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Cedar Ridge Drive reported out-of-control burn pile. And 1:15 p.m., a caller from Auburn Road reported a concern about an ostrich. 2:05 p.m., a caller from 22,000 block of Keller Road reported theft of multiple items and vandalism to property. And 3:47 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Dalewood Way reported fraudulent activity in a bank account. And 4:26 p.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Long Valley Road reported a structure fire. Camping trailer had blown up. And 6:12 p.m., a woman from 14,000 block of Edgewater Court reported her home was burnt down. And 6:35 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Idlewild Drive reported a residential burglar through a laundry room window. And 8:13 p.m., a caller from Julia Ranch Road reported a man was drunk, refusing to leave, and putting together a bow and arrow to shoot people in the walls. 2 crossbows were taken for safekeeping. 8:40 p.m., a boy from Majestic View Court reported his father had threatened to kill him because he was growing marijuana. The boy was cited and released on suspicion of vandalism and making a false report. And Tuesday, 2:04 a.m., a caller from Highway 20 and Harmony Ridge Road reported a drunken man refused to get out of the road. Nevada City Police Department on Monday. At 4:20 p.m., a caller from 400 block of Sacramento Street reported a man in a black ripped clothing seemed disorientated and tried to get into the caller's backyard. He could not be located. At 6:51 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Commercial Street reported a physical fight. A man was found to have been yelling at himself. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. You guessed it, it's us, GVTV News.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
In today's local news headlines, fireman, cowboy, cop, easily set to retire after 3 decades in law enforcement. And fraudster sentenced to 5 years, 8 months. And Night of Giving raises $22,000 for homeless services. In our first local story, written by Liz Keller out of the Union, Nevada County Sheriff Deputy Phil Easley said he has been dreading retirement, but Easley, who is set to leave a more than 30-year career in law enforcement Thursday, has plenty on his plate to keep him busy. He plans to continue raising horses and mules and build his herd of cattle. He wants to put a mule pack clinics and run outfitting and packing trips into the high country. He just got hired to teach a merchant marine captain's course and recently was certified as an assistant dive instructor. Working with High Sierra divers out of Auburn, he thinks about running charter dive trips on Lake Tahoe and fishing trips down the Delta, and he works on a book relating his family's history titled Cowboys and Badges. Easley insisted, however, that he will be taking it much easier than I am now. His heroes have always been cowboys. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a fireman, a cowboy, and a cop. Those were my career goals, Easley said. Easley accomplished all three, starting his career as a firefighter and spending part of his time with the Nevada County Sheriff's Office on mounted patrol. The work definitely runs in Easley's blood. His grandfather was a rough rider, and he describes his father as a true marble man who was taught how to rope by rodeo trick rider Monty Montana, and who became a reserve member of the Los Angeles County Mounted Posse. When I was a little boy, I would see my dad go out with his Stetson and his gun in his holster, riding out on river patrol, Easley said. I wanted to be just like him. Easley's father was a quick-draw artist. I learned some of those tricks, starting at 8 with toy guns and then a BB gun, he said. Growing up on a ranch in southern Nevada County, Easley was heavily influenced as well as by the area's old cowboys, who he said were tough as nails. Given that history, it's not a surprise that Easley cites Roy Rogers as his all-time hero. He was a good guy in a white hat, the guy that makes people feel safe, Easley mused. I feel like I accomplished that in my career. I feel like I did a good job of protecting people. Serving the community, Easley spent 5 years working for CAL FIRE before switching gears and becoming a reserve deputy within Nevada County. He also spent a year with the Colfax Police Department. When I started, we had revolvers and no backup, he said with a laugh. The thought was one job, one ranger. He came out of the academy ready to apply everything he thought he knew about policing. But former Sheriff Wayne Brown told me to forget about that. He'd teach me how we do it in Nevada County, Easley said. He taught me to look at the needs of the whole community, the spirit of the law over the letter of the law. Now Easley notes the kind of community-oriented policing he did when he started. Sharing cups of coffee with local ranchers is back in favor. Deputy counts his 5 years as school resource officer at Bear River High School as among the most fulfilling and difficult of his career. I helped turn that school around, he said, describing the joy of hearing from former students years later. A lot of them needed a father figure, he added. Easley is ending his stint with the Sheriff's Office on boat patrol, a duty that might have seemed an odd choice for a cowboy, but one that he described as highlight of his career. I'm really going to miss law enforcement, he said. I've done it all my life. Overall, I've been really proud to serve this community. I love the people in it. He's a great guy. He's always out at the fair every year meeting everybody, so hopefully you saw him there. In another Liz Keller story, Lake of the Pines resident William Lawson Campbell was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months Tuesday for defrauding dozens of Nevada County residents at least $500,000 between 2003 and 2009. Victims presented in court expressed their satisfaction with several calling Campbell's jail term the best Christmas present ever. Campbell pleaded no contest on August 11th to counts of obtaining money by false pretenses after selling pre-initial public offering shares in stock that did not exist. He took money, but he never invested it, using it instead for personal gain. He also sold shares in rice-growing investment and herb farm in the Philippines that did not exist, as well as real estate transactions. Probation report said Campbell still blames another for crimes. Probation department recommended a sentence of 8 years and 8 months, noting that while this was Campbell's first criminal conviction, he continues to blame a seemingly fictitious person named Gary Larson for his actions. The defendant has been unable to produce any phone records, photos, emails, letters, notes, or any single shred of evidence that Gary Larson even existed. The report added that Campbell apparently had forgotten that he admitted in 2009 email to Nevada County Sheriff Sergeant Steve Tripp that he had lied about Larson's involvement. In his statement to the probation department, Campbell continued to place the blame on Larson and another man, Tom Lee. In 2008, Campbell claimed Larson asked him for all his files and then disappeared. Shocked, Campbell wrote, "I did not know what to do. He left and disappeared, leaving no trace behind, none. Throwaway cell phones, three-party washed and cleaned emails, leaving no trace. No trace of any transaction in banking. He left me hanging with all this." Campbell added that he had endured the complete isolation, had difficulty finding work, and is losing his home. He claimed to have found work selling step-in bathtubs to elderly clients, making over $100,000 a year. Campbell destroyed our trust. Several of Campbell's more than 30 victims spoke at his sentencing, said Tuesday in Nevada County Superior Court, many detailing how their longtime friend and trusted advisor betrayed their trust. Trace Sorensen sobbed as she told Judge Thomas Anderson that Campbell had devastated her life. "I live every day now in fear of what the future is going to hold," she said. Beth Satterley said Campbell, who had been a good friend of her husband's and helped arrange his funeral services after he was killed in an accident. Campbell even arranged to collect donations for her 2 daughters, she said, adding that they never saw any of the money. Campbell then convinced her to invest in a number of ventures. "Every day I wake up and go stand in the shower and scream," Satterley said, "and how dare you do this to our family? You damaged my kids' trust. You damaged their growth." Campbell's court-appointed attorney, Greg Klein, called on him a frail old man who's scared to death, and told Anderson he was committed to paying $2,500 a month in restitution. Prosecutor Jamie Hogginson, however, expressed skepticism as to the validity of Campbell's employment, pointing to his continued pattern of deceit. Campbell spoke, insisting he was remorseful and offering a sincere apology. "Believe me, I feel your pain," he said. "I made really bad decisions, and I didn't have any idea what the outcome would be." In the end, Anderson chose to abide by the plea agreement, sentencing Campbell to 5 years and 8 months in prison, although due to realignment, that sentence will serve in county jail. Anderson also reserved jurisdiction over any modifications to Campbell's sentence. And then Christopher Rosacker's story from the Union. This year's 6th annual Night of Giving raised $22,581 to benefit Hospitality House, a nonprofit organization that services the homeless. Night of Giving is an evening of live entertainment that more than 40 acts performed in 2 rooms at the Miners Foundry in Nevada County, Nevada City. It isn't just showing up to have a good time. The people have generally cared about the people we are serving and want to help them, said Hospitality House Executive Director Cindy Maple. Fundraisers are about creating awareness in our programs. It's an opportunity to share what we are about. This year, more than $22,000 in donations included 3 $1,000 donations plus $5,000 in matching funds for a total that is marked to increase from last year's $14,000 raised. So clearly, this was our best Night of Giving event ever, said organizer Mikhail Graham in an email to the union. Thankfully, people are feeling very generous, and it shows ever so this year's total is truly one of the most wonderful events I've ever been a part of. On top of the significant donation increase, Graham said this year's attendance was slightly less than last year's turnout. Funny thing is that we were up in donations so much more, Graham said. There are some good-spirited folks trying to make a difference here. In spite of the recent turmoil in which the Hospitality House entire board of directors resigned and was replaced, along with tough economic times, the community came together to support Hospitality House, said Cindy Maple in a phone interview. The event is Hospitality House's largest annual fundraiser, providing 10% of its operating budget. It certainly makes a difference, especially since every dollar makes a difference right now, Maple added. Graham thanked the Miners Foundry, KVMR, Telestream, the Union, Mateo's Public, Ike's Quarter Cafe, Diego's Tofanelli's, the Veggie Broom, Sherry Snook's Hand-Dipped Ice Cream, Yuba Chai, Flower Garden, and many more for their support of the event. He also attributed the evening's success to efforts of John Tabor, Dave Brown, Bruce Doan, Rich Mead, Ken Schumacher, Stephanie Molman, Kathy Dotson, and just so many more. And that's it for local news today. We'd like to thank another one of our underwriters before we leave. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. It should be Friday, getting close to Christmas. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Do you like desserts? They got them. You like international style lunches? They got them. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. Belle Star's shop is a one-of-a-kind place you will find on the Ridge. Steaming hot coffee and a cool atmosphere with healthy food, organic desserts, and meals available. Belle and her smile will not be forgotten the first time you visit.
Clean like a desk bar, wouldn't you say so? Is there a place better for my face in the bay? No, hearing beats on the streets till the clubs they go, moving on the dance floor while singing the songs they know. Clean like a desk bar, wouldn't you say so? Is there a place better for my face in the bay? No, hearing beats on the streets till the clubs they go, moving on the dance floor while singing the songs they know. Clean like a desk bar, wouldn't you say so? Is there a place better for my face in the bay? No, hearing beats on the streets till the clubs they go, moving on the dance floor while singing the songs they know. Wouldn't you say so? Is there a place better for my face in the day? No, hearing beats